Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 13. So this season is called The Chosen Path. We're meeting and I'm interviewing different converts, some women, some men. And I had come across Jezliah through Instagram. Yeah, I think you had reached out to me originally. We had done a live together. This was going back, I don't know, several months ago. And when I decided to do this concept for this season, I was like, okay, I'm going to reach back out and let's do a full on interview because last time you were interviewing me, right? And now I am getting to interview you. So it's only fair that we do that. So it happens to be that Jezliah is right now in Israel, but we're going to hear a little bit about her background, where she grew up, and a little bit of her story. And within that story, I would love for you to share what drew you to Judaism and what inspired you to pursue conversion. So you could take it however you want, whichever direction, how much information you want to give us, how little, that's whatever you're comfortable with. So take it away.
Okay, sounds good. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored and excited to be here today with you. And like you said, vice versa. Now it's you interviewing me. It's fun. So yeah, my name is Jezliah, and I guess the way I connected to Judaism and our pathway was that I was a Sabbath-keeping Christian, meaning that we went to church on Friday sundown and all the way till Saturday sundown. I also come from a pastoral family. My father was a pastor, and I have uncles and grandparents who are also ministers and worship leaders, and everybody's into the ministry and Bible scholars. So also along with that, we also didn't celebrate Christmas. We didn't celebrate Easter, and we kept kosher to what we understood, what's written in Vayikra. We didn't eat pork, unclean fish, shrimp, lobster included. And but we did mix meat and dairy, like I said, only what we understood from what's in Vayikra.
Wow. And so where were you raised?
I was raised in Texas. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and then raised most of my life. I grew up in Austin. My mom is from Monterrey. My husband also is from Mexico. Have a large family there in Mexico City. And my father was born and raised in also San Antonio, Texas.
So what was your mother tongue growing up?
What was my mother's what?
Tongue. Like what was the language that was spoken in your house?
So we spoke Spanish. I speak fluently Spanish. And also our church was, my father was the pastor of a Hispanic speaking church. So we grew up knowing the language, speaking the language, my grandparents, the whole thing. And then we learned English actually going to school. So my first language is growing up Spanish.
Wow. So now like as we say in comparison in the Jewish world, we would say like you're the rabbi's daughter.
Exactly.
Not only that, it sounds like not only the rabbi's daughter, like you were from the rabbi's family. Like everybody in your family was as so-called in the rabbinate, so to speak, correct?
Correct. I always tell when I go to my speaking events, I always tell this girls, I'm FFB, just that the Christian, Christian edition.
Right. Right. Exactly. Right. I didn't, some people that I'm going to interview that they are FFB from boyfriend. So meaning, they're through their boyfriends, they came to Judaism. But you're saying, like for you, you're FFB
Correct, yeah.
from birth, but in your pastoral and, in your religion. So what would you say, like, when did it dawn on you? At what age did it hit you and you're like, Judaism is really for me? Like, when did that start happening?
So I wasn't alone in my journey. It actually all happened and started with my mother, who became very interested. Like we were actually the most boring Christians ever because we didn't celebrate any holidays.
Okay.
And so she just kind of had one day like a thought, hey, exactly that, we're so boring. Like, why don't we look into the Jewish festivals? And from there, we started learning about Shabbat. and started implementing, bringing chalot. She started baking chalot and bringing kiddush to the church on Friday nights with us, and had the whole church participate. And then it didn't happen really until the Gush Katif evacuation. That was the summer of the Gush Katif in 2005, where she started listening to the news, and she started talking to us about everything that was happening here. And we all just felt very connected. We were hurting with the people. We didn't know exactly what was going on, but we saw the videos and the pictures of the people taken out of their homes. And from there, we just all started a journey. Thank God, I was 17 at this time. I had my who's now my husband. We were dating at the time, who also joined us from the beginning on this journey. He also has his own story, which is incredible, that meets up with mine. And so from there, my husband and my father, they came to Israel. They got to see the land during the evacuation. I mean, after a month after the evacuation. And from there, my mom just had questions, like, from the rabbis, things that she was learning from the rabbis, and going on these Jewish websites. And then eventually it just led us out of church. So many questions, so many things that we had, things that were not making sense to us anymore at that time. So many discrepancies within the Christian Bible itself. And so there was a lot of research, and a lot of it was done by my mom, and her just kind of leading the family out of that.
Wow. What was your father's reaction to all of this?
My father's reaction was not a good one. I think it was first. I'm the youngest of three. It's my brother, my sister, and then me, and then my husband. We all took it very well, meaning that it was a hard step, but we knew that my mom had gone into this intense, process in order for her to tell us, what, we've been doing avodah zarah for all of our lives, and we need to leave the church. We need to change. We need to really, really learn what's going on here. And my father was the one who had a hard time, because he was a pastor, to the point that they almost got divorced because of it. And it wasn't really until he started asking his supervisors and his Bible scholars the questions that we all had at the time. And one of them actually finally got back to him and told him, you know what, as you come to find out, everything that you've learned is true, but you have a comfortable job. You have a congregation of 200 to 300 people. You know what? Like, just think of it this way. It's like an omen. It makes the people feel good. So that was the turning point for him, where he was like, whoa, like, there's no way that I can continue after that. So that was my father's moment, and it wasn't easy. And it wasn't easy for all of us, because we had a congregation of our community, people that we grew up with, friends, family. We're Mexican. We have a big Mexican family, uncles, cousins, and I think our thought at that point was, okay, we have that evangelical mindset still. We got to save the church now. We have this new information that nobody knows about. We have to get them out of the church. We have to get them out of avodah zarah. We got to get them out of idolatry. So from there, we went on a mission to try to get everybody out. We tried to talk less about Yeshu in the sermons. My father started doing Parsha of the Week instead.
Wow.
And my husband and I, we were both worship leaders at our church. And so we started singing a little bit more Hebrew songs, less. We stopped singing songs that had anything to do with Yeshu, just kind of part of things said God. And my husband even started wearing a kippah at church that he had bought here. And, we weren't so subtle. We really weren't. We were hoping to get that message across, the most impactful way that we could. But it didn't go so well. A lot of people started finding out, what's going on. They didn't understand. And it led us into finding the Jewish community.
Wow. So which Jewish community were you then connecting to?
During that time, we once there was a point where, and this was, I told you the Gush Katif
Right.
evacuation happened in August. By this point, it was December, January time where we were feeling, okay, people are feeling the pressure that we are, we're not doing so well giving off. So we told them, okay, you know what, we're going to go away with the family. And, it's just kind of to just ease the tension that was going on. We started hearing that people were talking and this, and so we ended up at Chabad house, the local Chabad house. And that was the journey. I think for me, my parents, and for my husband, we joined in their prayer service on Shabbat morning, and it was very different from what we were used to, especially the whole separation, men and women. And also me and my husband, we were expecting musical instruments, in front. We're so used to concert type of setting every weekend. So I was just there waiting for, when's the music, when are you gonna come out with the music? No, it's just tefillah after tefillah for about 3-4 hours, and it's Chabad. So we were there about till 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was a very unexpected first hand experience at Judaism. And while we were in tefillah, the Rebbitzin comes. She was a tall woman. She's a tall woman, and she comes right next to me. And it's so funny because usually we're taught that you get that, shun them away like 3 times,
Right.
reject them 3 times. And the Rebbitzins coming to us, and we expected that because we had already done our research. We expect, you know what, we're going to go in and to be low key, no one's going to talk to us. And no, the Rebbitzin came straight up to me, stood up next to me, and she was so loud. She's like, "Hi, what's your name?" I'm like, "Jezliah." And she's like, "Are you still in school? Are you working?" I'm like, "No, I actually just graduated." And she's like, "You want a job? Do you want to work at my Hebrew school?" And I was like, "Sure." And she's like, you can be an assistant." And she's like offering me a job on Shabbat. And afterward, everybody just started crowding towards us and asking us all these questions. We felt like if we didn't have the right answer, like that's the end of us. Literally, they're asking, "Why do you want to convert? Why do you want to do this? It's hard, right?" And we're just remembering, like all of the passages, like Bible memorization for us. We're like, well, David Amelech said this and this and this. So, so that helped us out a little bit. We were just trying to do our best. So yeah, I actually started the following week, and they put me in as an assistant in the pre-K class.
Wow.
And it was a very special moment for me because I felt like I got to do it all over again. Meaning, like, I was learning Mode'ani with the little kids. I was learning all the brachot. I was learning Shema. I was learning washing of the hands, all the halacha and the laws and the hagim. Like, if I was a little kid, I felt like Hashem was like, you know what, I'm going to give you a shot at this until you can see how beautiful. And not just that, I was so happy and excited because I would come back home. And I was 18 years old at this time and engaged. At this point, me and my husband got engaged. So, and so I come back home and I'm saying, Mom, look, this is how you do Molde Ani. Mom, look, this is this, and this is a bracha for it, and I kept a close connection between the Jewish side of it, Judaism, and my family, while us still being in church.
Wow. So interesting. So did you have to go to other classes besides? I mean, here you're getting like an education on, from the basics, but did you go to other classes?
So we didn't, because at this point we were not even considering conversion. We didn't really know at this point what was going to happen. Right now, our mentality was like, we have the church to save. We have a family, our families, that we want to get them out. And it just didn't work out. After a few months after this, I started working at Chabad. They had a big meeting at my church where because it got out, something weird, the pastor family is acting weird. We know they started calling my parents supervisors and the bosses, and they ended up having a meeting and with the whole church and the family, were really the accused, and even family members of ours started showing up also to say things against us at this meeting.
So painful.
So yeah, it was very painful to see. It was uncles of ours, and yeah, it was a very, very difficult situation. From that moment, my father resigned right away, and we just didn't step back into church after that. We lost all communication with everybody in church. A lot of my family members did not speak to us for a while.
Wow.
And we all within my family, we kind of just went our separate ways. My parents, they wanted to go straight into conversion. My brother, my sister didn't want anything to do with anything religion wise. And me and my husband had a wedding to plan. We weren't sure what path we wanted to take. We just knew that it was so much at this point. And we're like, okay, let's plan our wedding. And something that I would have had about 300 people, 400 people, because of the status of my grandparents and my parents, I only invited 50.
Wow.
And then from those 50, I think only 20 people showed up at our wedding. Yeah. And it was mostly family, which means that not a lot of family showed up. My husband's family also, they had a very hard time dealing with it, but they were very still involved, meaning that they didn't disappear. So he had that for him. And it wasn't until we got married, and then it wasn't until a year after that we made the decision together to begin our process. So from that moment, it was about a year and a half until we decided, okay, we want to go straight into
conversion.
Yeah.
And then your parents did that afterwards also, or they were before?
They did theirs first, and they converted a year after we got married. So in 2007, they finished theirs a whole year before ours, a year and a half before ours. Ours was very, very different. My husband had his own doubts about like rushing into another religion. We both did. We tried to do the whole, all of our lives we had been used to going to church on Sabbath, making this day a holy day and doing what we usually do. And after we got married, we just, we didn't have any type of direction. We did the normal secular thing, which is go to the movies, go to the mall, go to the restaurant, and basically spend so much money. And so after that kind of wore off, we were kind of lost, and we're like, what is this? We also weren't singing anymore like we used to, and we lost some kind of sense of direction in our way. It wasn't until for me personally that I became pregnant a year later with my first child that I found out I was pregnant with a boy, and I started calling all my family members, and I said, Mom, Dad, or whatever. I called my sister, and then I have my brother. My brother actually has a son, and he was my first nephew, and unfortunately he had a vaccine injury when he was a year, which left him immobilized. He was walking, and from there he went back to crawling, he went back to just sitting. Yeah, it was very sad, and the doctors had told him that he wouldn't live past 5 years old. So it was a very hard situation that our family went through during this whole process as well. And my brother went into a very dark depression because of this. The whole family was very hard for us. And I called my brother, and I was very excited. I told him, I'm having a baby, and he responded back by saying, you know what? If you want, I can help you take care of it so that you don't have to go through what I'm going through. And it just shocked me, his response, at that moment, it just shocked me. And I hung up on him. I was very angry. And I called my mom right away, and I told her what had happened. And she told me, look, don't take it so personally. Your brother's been through so much. Right. And I want to tell you what just happened the other day. They were both here. And ever since we had left the church and even pursued the idea of Judaism, my brother would always fight with us, telling us, you're not Jewish, you're Mexican, So he would always have this conversation with my mom and just spirituality and God after we had left the church. And she told me, so we're talking about Judaism and God, and your nephew, he pulls on me, he tugs on me, he tells me, Grandma, who is God? And when she told me that, I just broke into 1,000 million pieces, because I'm thinking, what do you mean he doesn't know who God is? Mom, you taught us who God is. Even being in church, we knew who God is. We knew that there was a higher power since we were babies. How deep of a hole did my brother get into, so that, that he's so angry with God that he doesn't even want to share with his own child who he is? And that for me was a point that I said, no, I'm not going to let my child come into this world not knowing who God is and not having a purpose or a proper mission or anything. So Hashem, like, I'm going for it. We're coming back to you, all of us. And so that was a decision. I talked to my husband, and he was like, yeah, like we need to come back. And we both started our conversion, and we did the whole reading books. We moved into the Jewish community to be closer so that we can walk to shul. And yeah, we did the whole process.
Wow.
So much reading.
Wow. So how long did the process take, the two of you?
Ours was surprisingly not so long, about a year, maybe a little bit less than a year. But I think that also had to do with my involvement with already Chabad being there for a very long time. Me and my husband were connected, and just us being out of the church for a long time, where the rabbis knew the family and the direction that we were going in.
Right. So that helped. And you had touched on something which I know, but the audience doesn't know. You spoke about the music aspect. So people don't realize, how you and your husband are musically inclined. Because you had mentioned how when you went to that first service and you're like, where's that music? Because that speaks to you. Music is probably, when I asked you what your mother tongue was at home, and you said that Spanish was, obviously the first language. I think another language that's strong within you is music. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so tell us about the music, how music is so important in your life and in your husband's life.
Music, if I can define it in one word, it's the air we breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's our immediate and most deepest connection to Hashem. We've been doing it since we were both little. It's the way we can really connect and talk to Hashem, and to really break down, and to be raw and real with Him. And I don't think I myself started singing and dancing since I was 7 years old. Professionally danced. I trained in jazz and contemporary and ballet. And I took over the worship team at church when I was only 12, 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And I picked up the guitar, taught myself the guitar. My husband also, he's been doing it since he was little. And that actually is the way that we connected when we were younger, because we've known each other since we were kids. Mm-hmm. And they would put us to sing together at church. And my husband was actually right before we went through this whole process and he moved closer to where we were before it happened. He was going to sign on to a big Christian label. He had made already a CD and he was on that way. I had planned to be a missionary in the performing arts and to travel around with an organization called Hillsong. That was my dream. And that's how much of music we wanted. We wanted to do it as a career.
Wow. So now the two of you become Orthodox Jews. You both have a love for music. And, for me, the $1 million question is, maybe not so much for your husband, I would think more for you, is where you have these restrictive laws now of performance for you. You can't sing, or I shouldn't say you can't. One is not supposed to. I have to always prep my language. One in Orthodox observance, one is not supposed to sing in front of men. Your crowd now changes, dancing, singing. What was that like when that hit you? Because here you said your dream was this, so sometimes it's hard did you feel like you had to give up your dream when you became Orthodox?
Meaning when we converted?
Yeah, when you converted to Orthodox, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think when I found out about the word Kol Isha,
yes,
it was at Chabad when I was an assistant there. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Take a drink. Take a drink. You want to go get a drink? Go get a drink. We could always edit. Don't worry about it. We could edit. You want to go get a drink? Go get a drink.
I think I'm fine. Yeah. Let me go. Thank you. Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, I took more yogurt. Go ahead. Take a drink.
Okay. The first time that I heard the words kolisha, I was like, "What?" I was working as an assistant at Chabad, and I remember one of the representative's daughters were coming to me, and she was showing me. She wanted to show me how a tune went, so that I can help the class kind of lead and sing it. But she was 12 years old, I believe, at the time. But she looked around her, like her surround, she looked around. I'm just like, what's going on? She like grabbed me and pulled me to the back room. And she's like, it's for Kolisha. And I'm like, wait, what's that? And she's like, I can't sing in front of men. And she's like, started singing to me and telling me how the tune went. And I'm like, wait, what is this? Like, what do you mean you can't sing in front of men? Like, you can't sing at, like, I did understand the concept. So I think from this moment and knowing after that, learning what it's about, because we were surrounded by the community and it's a small community, there wasn't any more outlets like I had in church.
Right.
There was no more dance opportunities. There was no more singing opportunities. So for me, it ended right when we left the church, to be honest with you. And this was already 2 years going into before we start conversion. I think what I did as a way, and I think it's all Hashem, is that I was kind of on an autopilot, that I wouldn't feel the absence and the lack of music, so that it wouldn't hurt me so much. It was just kind of like Hashem was just like, there's so much to do right now. Don't worry about that type of thing, you know? Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I didn't really think about it until we converted and we made Aliyah. When I had my meltdown after 2 weeks when we made Aliyah,
Yeah.
and I finally, like we did the vacation thing for 2 weeks. We were here for vacation. We're going there and going there and going to restaurants, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like
real life
settled.
Real life.
Real life, and neighbors speaking Hebrew, like, and we lived in Yerushalayim at first. That it just kind of sunk in, and I just had my first breakdown, and my husband and I was telling my husband, I want to go home. I want to go home. Like, and he's like, no, we're already home. And he's the one who actually told me, go look for a dance class. And I'm just like, a light bulb went in my head. I was like, wait, what? Dance? Like, like I can do that? I haven't done that in such a long time. It had been already 5 years. Really. I think the most I sang was at home, just around, normal. So I went to go look for a dance class, and I started, and from there, I started realizing there's women only dance classes. There's women only opportunities here. Are you kidding me? And we're in Israel. There is at this time there wasn't so much opportunities, I think, outside of Israel. Here, because it was more easier. It was happening, and I met a very special girl there who became my best friend, more like a sister to me, and we both started a performing arts school.
So beautiful. What's the name of the performing arts school?
The Performing Arts School, it's known, everyone knows it as the RBS Dance and Music Academy, and it's here in Ramat Bet Shemesh.
Wow, so beautiful.
Yeah. So, nice. So this is where I discovered, you know what, there is a way. There's a way to do this with a women only audience, with women only classes, with women only everything, women only producers, like. And not just that, the feeling of it, knowing that it's just our sisters and women, there was no pressure. There was no feeling of like even the showing off type of thing. When you're within a mixed audience, you feel more comfortable and you feel more connected because we're sisters. We know why we're doing it. There's purpose. There's meaning behind it.
Yeah, you feel empowered. And I totally relate to what you're saying, because I also love dancing. And I remember when I was a young girl, I took dance, I took jazz. And after a while, it was like silly, because we ended up just practicing for the recital. And the recital was going to be on a Friday night, and I couldn't be in the recital. So I should just sit there on the side. And it was so depressing. And I remember telling my sister, I I really love dancing. I don't know where I'm supposed to get the dancing in. She says, one day you're going to dance only for girls. And it's, you know, and I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And lo and behold, as I got older, it became very popular. And now it's even more popular to have these motivators at bat mitzvahs. But this is pre that. I was
Right.
a bat mitzvah dance teacher. So I would do bat mitzvah dancing with the girls. And then I became, in my community at the time in Passaic, they just opened up their first Beis Yaakov high school, and they needed a dance teacher in the afternoon for like clubs. And it was it was the end of my teaching day. And so for 2 years, I taught dance in the Beis Yaakov high school. And I was like, what? Like, it was like so weird for me. It was like, but I so understand like that feeling. And then I think of the other awakening I had, because I so relate to what you're saying, is in 2017, I took a group of women to Israel. At that time, it was called JWRP. Now it's called Momentum. And we're at the Kotel on Friday night, 300 women at the Kotel, and we're all singing and dancing together at the
Wow.
Kotel. It's like that,
Wow.
like that energy that you feel inside. It's like that warmth and just also very empowering. It was just like, if that's your connector, if that's your language, it's like everything is speaking your language at the holiest place. It's just like,
Right.
it blows your mind. But I'm curious, what made you guys
Right.
decide to move to Israel?
Again, I think it was my mom who, with the process, at this time after we converted, and also my youngest son, because he was a year at that time.
Wow. Okay.
So he had to do the mikvah with us, and then we had to separate, and we got married
Oh,
within 3 months.
okay.
We
What was
had
that?
to get married.
Was that difficult?
It was hard. I was by myself at home with my 1-year-old,
Oh,
and yeah, it was very, very hard. 3 months. It didn't go by fast, and we got married under the chuppah, which was a whole other different experience. It was a spiritual, beyond spiritual experience I could never describe. It was just amazing.
and how many people did you have at this wedding?
Um not so many. It was a small Jewish community,
But still,
but it was even more special than my first wedding, because people there, we were all there on a mission. They knew what we were doing, me and my husband, you know, and it just felt that much special. Like, it felt like our neshamas were there, not bodies. Neshamas were there,
so
and they were all elevating us and like bringing us to this moment and together to Hashem. It was just like it was so undescribable. So after this, at this time, my father had already made Aliyah, and my mom was going back and forth because she was a doctor, and so she was just trying to she's trying to find a way to bring her job over to her through computer, being a consultant type of thing. So at this point, my mom told us, you know what, I'm leaving. That's it. And so I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was nice to have you here, but now you're saying you're leaving for sure. She's like, yeah, come with me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, are you kidding me? I can't, And she's like, no, go ask Yosef, go ask my husband. And I asked him, and my husband's always been the kind, like, yeah, let's do it. Like 25 years old, like, he's just like, yeah, let's just go. And so, yeah, we made Aliyah. And I think, like I said, for a long time, I was on autopilot. It felt like Hashem was just kind of rushing us through this process. Like, you need to get to here now.
Mm.
This is where I want you at this specific time. And then later on, I just thought about it. I was just like, I think it was the best thing for us, because you know what? We missed out on so much growing up, in church and not having this, this is perfect. My son's going to grow up here. He's going to get a different experience, and learn what it is to really be Jewish in the land. We didn't want to wait. We really didn't want to wait.
Wow. So how does it work, if you don't mind me asking? You said that your 1-year-old also had to convert. Does he have to do a conversion again after the bar mitzvah?
So he had his bar mitzvah 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what he did. He had to we talked to the rabbis about it. We prepared them. We told them. They already knew, and basically they asked him a question, if he's sure that he wants to take on all the mitzvot, and that was basically it. He said yes, and we also prepped him before also, and we told him, hey, you're gonna be a man. It's your decision now. don't forget what we taught you, but it's your choice. Don't forget, you live in Israel. You have no choice, but you have a choice.
Right, I hear you. Yeah.
So he decided he was going to keep it. And yeah, he's 16 now, my oldest.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So what have you found to be the most challenging part as being a convert and living maybe in Israel or the Jewish community? Like, what were some of the challenges that you've met?
For me personally, and I think it also transcended outward, is that not knowing or not feeling like I'm enough of a Jew, even with converting, or getting people's opinions or thinking that other people think that about us, that they're just converts. They're just, they're not at the same stature. They're not at the same, they're not at the same level as we are. They can't go to the same place as we can, or they can't have their kids in a Talmud Torah or a Beis Yaakov type of school.
Right.
I think that's what I found very challenging.
It sounds painful that to have to confront that. Is with the schools, that was something that you actually confronted?
Yeah, I think for every convert, once you are getting prepared to put your first kids into the school system, it really makes you find who you really are. It makes you because you're there looking for hashkafa as you're here. It's very different even in the States, and then coming here to Israel and finding out there's within your own Orthodox community, there's so many more communities within that. There's so many layers. So to find yourself and where you want to be, it's a challenge when nobody prepares you for that ahead of time. So I found that a lot challenging, but at the same time, it is what built us up. It made us realize where in Judaism we wanted to be, what we wanted to strive for, what we wanted for our family, for values, and things like that, and for our children.
Do the kids feel it at all? That they were like,
they see now that they're older. At first, of course, they're younger, they don't see it. Now that they're older, they see the difference, what it is. They don't feel different.
Okay.
Thank God. They don't feel. And I think that has to do a lot with me and my husband being so public about our conversion. And everyone knows it, because there are a lot of converts who, especially here in Israel, who don't say that they're converts, so that it wouldn't mess up their shot at shiruchim, or so that they don't get turned away at schools. This is the hard stuff that we found out early on that could happen knowing that you're a convert. So we didn't do that, and we didn't want our kids. They're proud of who their parents are. We're proud of where we come from, in a way that like Hashem took us. We can't hide it. We can't hide where we came from. He took us through this journey for a specific reason, and we tell our kids this so that they know when they're older. Ima and Abba fought to bring us here, and for us to be raised like this. I have to work as hard to make sure we stay, and we keep this that Ima and Abba brought to us.
Now, curious, because I know your name is a biblical name. Is that a new name, or that was always because you come from the pastoral family, that was your original name and you didn't have to change it? Like, I'm curious about the whole name thing.
Correct. It's my original name. I was born with it. In Hebrew, it's pronounced Jezliah with a yud at the beginning. And it's in one of those books where the writings where it's just genealogy. Right. There's no really significant. I think my parents were just like, "That's a cool name," and gave it to me, which I like it, which is why I kept it, because it also makes a cool stage name, as you see, Jezliah. Right. That's it. So yeah, I kept it, and it means the one who God perseveres.
Right. So you didn't have to change. Like, did you have to add a name or anything like that?
I took away my my middle name, because that one was a New Testament name.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. And how about your husband? Was that his name? Was Yosef his name, or?
Yes, just in Spanish. He grew up as Jose Daniel, and it's just Yosef Daniel now.
Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. Very cool. Because I always, on the one hand, it's interesting. Like I look at converts and I'm like envious that they get to choose their name. When we choose the names for our children and hope and pray
Right.
that they like the name that we've given them, right? This becomes your stamp of who you are.
Right.
But there's something unique and special about the fact that a person gets to actually choose. So you had the option. So in a way, there was a choice in that as well. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I had the option, yeah, and I think it just didn't feel for me that I needed to change, and I think it had to do with the reasoning of we always felt that we were coming back.
Mm.
We didn't feel from the beginning that we're converts, that we're choosing a different life. I think and based on my families and the upbringing, us keeping Shabbat, and us, a bunch of different customs that we had growing up, and my parents told us from relatives, older relatives, we feel deeply that we just came back.
Mm.
So if that was the name that my parents gave me, I wanted to honor that, and like Hashem knows, that's who I want to be, and I want to keep being that.
So now what happened to your brother and your sister? Did they as well convert in the end or no?
Yes, and they just finished their conversion, I think 5 years ago.
Mm.
It took them a while to really decide that they had their own journey, and so it took them a while to decide that this is what they wanted.
And where are they living? Did they join you guys in Israel as well?
Just my brother.
Mm-hmm.
My sister lives in Texas still with her family.
Very nice.
Yeah, and
I hate to ask, did that nephew end up passing away?
no, he is here. He's here in Israel, and he'll be turning 22, I believe, in February.
And he still has the issues that you had addressed.
Right. Right. He still has the issues. Yeah. But it's still difficult.
It's a journey for your brother. Wow.
Right.
Wow. And so their spouses were fine. They just joined in and.
Correct, because everybody was in on it from the beginning.
Because they're all so close knit. So.
Right. Right. Once we started this journey with my mom, with her whole findings, we were all, and that's one thing that me and my husband, it's such a bracha, because he had his moment of epiphany. Like he had this breakdown as well right before he moved to the city where I was, and we began dating a month before my mom started with her research. So he literally left his surroundings, came, and then we just brought him onto this whole road. This journey. I
think what's also special about it is that other converts don't necessarily have the children, the grandchildren, don't necessarily have that strong connection to their grandparents because they can't share if their grandparents aren't Jewish. There's things that they don't get to share with them anymore. It could be the holidays or whatever else. But in your situation, your children really can have that connection, that full circle connection with their grandparents, which is rare.
Right. Correct. At least with my parents.
Right.
We're very close also with my husband's parents. We've always kept a close connection, even here. And his mom is always messaging them and saying Shabbat Shalom. She sends them gift money for Hanukkah, and she respects everything that we do. They know everything. They've been very worried about it, especially since the war started, and they checking up on the kids, and they talk to them. And there is a small language barrier because she speaks only Spanish, but it's hard to connect because the Judaism and Christianity. It is hard to connect, but at the same time, it's they're not strangers, so that's a good thing.
So in your house, what language are you speaking with the kids?
We speak only English here.
Okay.
All my kids are fluent Hebrew speakers. I have not picked up at all. Well, RBS here.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard. I'm so sorry for anybody's watching. It's hard. Okay. When you can just naturally just go to somebody and say hi.
Right.
I need help with this in English. We keep Spanish as a secret language between me and my husband.
Okay.
But my kids are catching on already.
Yes. I think it's a secret between your kids. That's when they learn it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we can't really do that anymore. But mostly English here in the house.
So funny because when you say about Ramat Shemesh, I was just in Israel last year, and every weekend I was in Ramat Shemesh, and my brother is in Ramat Shemesh. So I remember one time we came for a simcha. It was maybe for my nephew's wedding or something, and my daughter had to get her hair done, and she says, "Ima, I'm by the hairdresser, and I can't understand a word she's saying. I don't understand the Hebrew." I'm like, "Okay," so I come, and the woman starts talking to me in English. I'm like, "Adina, she's talking in English." She says, "I don't know. I don't understand." So I said to the woman, I said, "Are you Israeli?" She says, "Yes." I said, "So where'd you learn all this English?" She says, "I live in Ramat Beit Shemesh."
It's the opposite.
That's what happens here in Ramat Beit
Exactly.
Shemesh. It's a very Anglo. It's very Anglo speaking.
Yes.
So I'd love to. What would you say is your favorite holiday once you became Jewish? Like where do you, what mitzvah do you connect to the most? Once,
We always talk about this. And for me,
yeah.
it's Hanukkah.
Oh, okay.
It might be very different, but for me, it's Hanukkah. I don't know. I really don't understand it. I feel like it's just the season of it, of just being in this spirit of like just joy and believing in miracles, that everything is hopeful, that anything can change. And it might also be the fact that we didn't grow up celebrating Christmas.
Ah,
I think about that a lot, that just having something where I can decorate my home, I have a menorah, that I have something, to replace that I was supposed to,
uh-huh.
be involved with. Now I have this holiday where I can just make a big Chanukiah for Hashem, and really display what it's like to have this holiday and of real miracles and with real meaning. And it's just for me, it's just also the hot cocoa. It's cold, and it's just a comfortable holiday.
Okay, and any specific mitzvot that like really speaks to you once you converted and you really enjoy doing?
Shabbat candles.
That's so nice.
Yeah, Shabbat candles, because I believe with all my heart that Shabbat is what kept us, and
Mm,
that's the reason why we came back. Hashem kept us. Like you keep Shabbat, Hashem keeps you,
right.
type of thing, and that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
Because we were Sabbath going Christians, we became Sabbath keeping Jews.
And what was going to the mikveh for the first time? What was that like for you?
Oh gosh, um, that was scary. It was okay. First of all, it's our first time in the mikvah was with a beit din.
Right.
So for a girl,
Yeah.
it was very, very nerve-wracking. I didn't know what exactly I was doing. It's done in the most sneeze way. Just that, it's for someone who's just knowing what happens, and the rabbis are standing behind, but closed with a an attendant. It was just very nerve-wracking for me. But um we were asked questions. I was asked questions, and it was like the most like like you're going to war type of thing. I would say you're going to war, you're getting asked these questions, and you're being asked, do you understand that this, and that you are accepting the laws of the people, and that we've been persecuted for so long? Are you willing to die for Torah? Are you willing to die for mitzvah? Are you willing to die for Hashem? Like, do you understand? And you're just there like, yes sir, like, yes, I'm ready, like. And it just the emotion of just the rabbi's preparing you for like these real big commitments, and you're just thinking to yourself like, wow, like this is no joke. This is this is the big leagues here, um and after these questions, you're just like, just crying. I remember just crying and just being like, Hashem, yes, like bring me home, just bring me home.
Did they
I'm ready.
did they ask any like halacha questions at the time of the mikvah, or it was just those things like, are you ready for this? Are you ready for that? Did they ask you like a specific practical question?
No, at that point, no, because all of our questions that we had to ask were already done beforehand. I think a week before, or the day before. The day before, we had a test, like a verbal test with them.
Right.
Like just to test it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And now looking back, do you celebrate the day of your conversion, or it's just that was just a regular day, and now it's
Yes, every year.
every year you
Every
celebrate?
year
Yeah.
every year we celebrate. We remember which parsha. It's parsha bo.
Mm-hmm.
That we converted. And for example, I this is going to be we just celebrated 14 years. We're going to celebrate 15 years already.
Okay, wow.
And on my 12th year, I wanted to do something big, but I had a baby. Literally at the same time. I was huge. I was tired. I was my last one. I had my last baby, and I just didn't do anything. And so later on that summer, the same year, I ran a camp. I do a performing arts camp every year, and I ran a camp, and all the girls were talking about their bat mitzvahs for that year and what they're doing and all the planning. And I just kind of looked at them randomly and I said, "Oh, I never had a bat mitzvah." Like I was just, it wasn't meant to, like, I wasn't making them feel, I didn't want to make them feel bad or anything. I was just kind of like, oh, like shucks type of thing. The next day, they made me a surprise bat mitzvah.
Oh, that is so
I have it on my Instagram, the stories. They surprised me with invitation, with an invitation with my name, and they told me meet us here at this time. They had music, they had confetti, they made lunch, they got a cake with number 12 on it.
wow.
And I was just so touched. It was such a beautiful, beautiful gesture that they made. It was just amazing. So I did have a bat mitzvah.
First of all, I see. I find that amazing. I teach. I've taught for many years. I find young Jewish people get things done. I mean, like you just said, within the next day, look what they were able to accomplish. I just don't hear that in any other cultures. At least I've never come across. And, even last year during, when all the families were displaced from the South, and I had a lot of old students that were in seminaries, and they were making bat mitzvahs for the people that were living in these hotels and bringing food. And this was not something that the school told them to do. It was just something that they just did. And I'm always in amazement. And I think that's beautiful, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Really, it really shows how they shine, the Jewish young girls.
There's no one else like our people. And you see it like just on an everyday, a mom just had a baby, your neighbor, the next door neighbor, and the whole street already, filled up a whole 2 weeks for her of meals. Like no one else does that. We have each other's back. That's what I've learned, is that we're all really a family. It's a family.
Beautiful, beautiful. One last question. Out of your 5 senses, which one do you connect to the most? And how does that play in your life and your Jewish life?
Oh gosh, I did think about this one. I would think touch.
Okay.
And how does that play in my life? I think I appreciate the concept of mitzvot, hands on. Like Judaism is hands on. It's something that we weren't taught growing up. It was more of your faith, just have faith and everything is okay. And here Hashem brings us like, no, you have to act. You have to act. You have to do. You have to use your hands and do.
Right.
And He makes us work for it. And so I believe that plays a very important part, because it's our hishtadlut, we do as much that we can, and then it's all Hashem.
Right.
So that's the most perfect way that I can put it, we do everything with our hand that we can, and then it's up to God.
Right. I love that. It's such a beautiful way to end, because so many times people think, I'm being more Jewish because I'm being more spiritual, or I'm feeling it more. Those are all important, but like you said, it's hands on. The mitzvot, there are actions that need to be taken. It's not just a feeling. Feelings are great. Feelings are important, but it's really hands on. And I loved how you also finished that by saying that it's also a Jewish concept to know that our job is to do as much as we can. We're supposed to try, but not necessarily come to the finish line. Like that's for God to do that. Like, I don't know, you ever hear this parable? I once heard it from Rabbi Wallerstein. He spoke about the story about this man was told to push a rock. He had to wake up in the morning and push the rock and push the rock and push the rock. And he's pushing and pushing and pushing. And the next day he's pushing with all his might, he's pushing with all his might. Da, 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 da. And so then he complains as if to God, you told me to move the rock. God's like, I never told you to move the rock. I told you to push it. It's not for you to move. It's for me to move. It's for you to push.
Right.
So, and that's exactly what you just said. It's for me to do as much as I can, but it's for God to finish the job. So I just love that. And that's so beautiful. And thank you so much for taking the time so late at night for you, and I really do appreciate it. And it's so special. And I guess perhaps I should have even asked if your husband was around. I didn't even realize at first when we were talking that he also went through the whole process with you. Some of the people that I'm interviewing, it's one person, not both.
Right.
So for you, it's both. So maybe we'll get you on another time and we'll do an update if your husband ever wants.
Definitely. No, you should definitely get on. Like I said, I grew up the FFB, meaning like I always say I do speaking events at seminaries and I do concerts. This year I just launched my concert, and I had my first concert with a seminar here in Jerusalem.
Oh, good for you.
And I always tell them, I grew up FFB, a goody two shoes, doing what mom and dad, did, good straight A's. And my husband, not that he was a bad kid, but he has his stories. He was more adventurous. He has his stories, and you should definitely have him on.
Okay. Well, God willing. Well, thank you for being on. And I so appreciate it. And I look forward to doing more things with you.
Likewise. Likewise. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.